Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am AJ, soon to be joined by JT. He's having some internet trouble right now, but let's run down the usual plugs before we go. We are brought to you by Audible. You can go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your free 30-day trial and a free audiobook download of your choice, which you get to keep, whether you decide to stick with Audible or not. You can also get customizable Nerf Herder Council gear, such as the Marvel logo t-shirt that I'm wearing right now. You can get that at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. Pick your garment, pick your color, pick your design. And as always, make sure you follow us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live, even when it's 5 minutes late, like it is tonight. And I'm filling in as the main host, which is never a good thing. We are also available on Twitter. We are available on Facebook. If you haven't found us yet, you probably won't. So, just look for us. You'll find us. It's all good. At this time, I would like to bring in, hopefully, the main host, if he can stay online tonight. Let's see. JT, are you there?
I'm here. So, yeah, that was fun. Let's see what happens. I had to restart my mode.
Okay, so is it 1994 where you're at? Are you using a 56K dial-up?
Dude,
I think that's our answer right there. Okay.
But I will say one thing. At least
Yeah. Okay, anyway. So apparently we're having audio problems and video problems. So at least I'm online. I'm doing better than John is.
Yeah. Hopefully there's no lag. Like I say, it's saying my connection is unstable, which is normal. Not entirely stable. This connection is not entirely stable. Oh my God!
StreamYard says on my end, it says the host is not entirely stable.
Yeah. Spencer Jowitz, awesome to see you, man. Says John's net sucks. Yes. I don't know what the hell it is, man. I just had it fixed a couple weeks ago and it was perfect. Oh my God. I hate this. I really do. But hey, onward and upward, right?
Yeah. Like fixing my microphone, for example.
Yeah. This is see, we're extremely professional. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh God. This happens in summer though, is everything gets pushed later because the sun doesn't go down and then we're like scrambling to get online and yeah, this happens. But hey, you're looking great. I'm going to put you over in your usual spot here.
Okay.
Going. Because this is one that I'm amazed we haven't done before. So I figured you're going to be doing most of the talking and I'm just going to be, poo-pooing your party. You already had a chance back in February to defend Crystal Skull. So let's talk about the other movies that we can agree upon.
Yeah. Well, you're wrong about Crystal Skull. So there's that. I'm glad you weren't on that episode.
So am I.
Jason Starkey, what's up, Asa? It's that Aiken IT. Man, look at this. All my buddies are friggin' checking in, and it's like my gear goes to shit. That's great. That's beautiful. But that's the beauty of the Nerf Herder Council. So, yeah, Craig, what's up, man? Craig, it's good to see you, man. It's been a while. So, Spencer John likes Rocky V. Listen, all right, let's just get this out of the way. All right. Crystal Skull is a good, fun movie, okay? We just did an episode like last month, I want to say it was, with Sean Faust. It is a fun movie, okay? Just deal with it. I don't want to hear any bullshit about it, man. You guys are wrong. It's like, God damn it. Like, it's, anyway, we did a whole episode about it, so, I mean, but
yeah, it was back in February.
Look at this. Spencer, John likes Rocky V. John likes Rise of Skywalker. John does like Rise of Skywalker. That is right. Yeah.
You sick bastard. It's like I don't even know you anymore.
It's not great, but it's fun. Remember, I've said many times that movie was made for people like me. It's like, hey, mid-40s nerd that's been with us for his whole entire life. Remember this? Remember that? Now Spencer says John likes Ishtar. I've never seen that movie, and I won't see it strictly out of principle because I've heard it sucks and the title's terrible. So, yeah, none of that.
That sounds like Pig Latin.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Kale, God, I'm the one with COVID, but you're the one lacking taste. Sorry that you have COVID. Sorry about that. All right, so getting on task here. You are right. We how have we gone this long? It's close to 8 years we've been doing the show, and we have not done an Indiana Jones episode. We
Dude, I don't know how it's flown below the radar this long. It's incredible.
Yeah.
We love the movies. It's not like we got a problem with that. It's never come up for some reason. It's incredible.
Yeah. Like I said, like defending Crystal Skull is an easy one because obviously I'm a shill for that movie, and like so I thought about that. But the rest of it, you would think it's something that we would talk about because, I mean, first of all, I'm on record as saying that Raiders of the Lost Ark is basically a perfect movie, and I'll die on that hill against anybody who wants to debate it with me because that's just, I mean, it's incredible. It's funny because so growing up, Spencer, goddamn, keep derailing me. So growing up, like I saw Raiders in the theater. I think it was like 17 times at the Berea Theater, one town over from where AJ and I grew up. And the local library they were playing like a making of Raiders of the Lost Ark thing. It was like an hour-long little movie at the library for kids. And I rode my bike over to the library. It was in the same town that I saw the movie in. And I watched that a bunch of times. So I was like the biggest Raiders honk. And when I was living, God, this was like mid-2000s, I think. Like, it's when I was in Hinckley. AJ, you know where that is. Nobody else does.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going through some VHS tapes and a box of tapes that I hadn't seen in a while, and there's a copy of Raiders in there, and I realized I hadn't seen it in forever, and I was like, man, oh man, I haven't watched this movie, and it was almost like watching it fresh because it had been so long since I had seen it, and I gotta tell you, man, I was blown away all over again. I was like, yeah, Spencer, you're damn near right. It's like Betamax. Yeah, it damn near was, man. But yeah, I absolutely was like, holy shit, man. It was so cool to get a fresh perspective on a movie that I love so much. And, seeing it as an adult of not having seen it forever, it just really reminded me of what an unbelievable movie that is. And, as I was kind of alluding to, I've actually had debates with people like, well, it's not, there are flaws with it. There's this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, there really aren't. That is like everything you want in just a fun, kick-ass action flick. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, what are you going to complain about?
You know what the sign of a good movie is? And I've said this before, is when you see the, quote, flaws and you don't care. Like, you could say how implausible the stunts are and how this plot point doesn't make sense and all, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't unravel the movie. You buy into everything that's going on and you don't care about the stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's basically, you know what that movie is to me? Because I just rewatched it as well. And I didn't realize this until I did a little bit of background. Yeah, I did actual research for the show, at least a little bit. The amount of stuff that the actual like build talent did for themselves, like stunt wise and everything. That movie is basically Hollywood Jackass. Like, you got Harrison Ford getting dragged behind a truck. You've got snakes live on set with the actors. You got fire, like all this stuff that they would never let happen today. Yeah. But it makes the movie awesome because you know that those people are actually in there doing that stuff. And it's not like every time you can't see Harrison Ford's face, you're like, oh, it's stunt double. Got it. So it's like so fun because you can see that like these people are actually doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it starts out in a perfect fashion too, because, when you start out with the scene of him, going into the cave and, he swings over like a hole in the earth. Okay, whatever. Like it's not huge. It's not like he starts out like going over this like mile-long chasm. You know what I mean? Like, so you're like, okay, like at least it looks like it's somewhat doable. Then the dude gets spiders on him. You're like, oh, that's gross, but okay, whatever. And then when he goes in the room and he's like, it's booby trapped with the darts. You're like, yeah, okay, well, he does his little balancing thing and then he just grabs a golden idol and okay, whatever. It's unbelievable, but by the same token, it's not, that unbelievable to where you're like, oh, come on, like right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and you get that action immediately. And then he's, the boulder comes down, he's out running a boulder and you're like, holy shit. Like, so it's crazy, but not, take you out of the moment crazy right off the bat. So I think after that hits, you're like invested in it. You kind of, really get into it because the next thing you see is that he is a professor. And you kind of the same reaction that Mutt had in Crystal Skull. Like, you're a teacher?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, okay. So instantly you've got these two kinds of things juxtaposed against each other. And you're like, okay, where is this going? And then all hell breaks loose. And you're like, wow, this is cool. So, and everybody hates the knives and, so I just think it played really, really well. So.
Dude, they're trying their best to derail us in the comments tonight. Holy shit.
That's okay. I'm more worried about my internet derailing me. So,
Spencer, Harrison Ford has never done a bad movie. They proved that in Fanboys.
See, we got to do a Fanboys episode, man.
Oh man. And then Kale chimes in. Does Harrison Ford's cameo in Rise of Skywalker count?
Oh my god.
Dude, they are trolling you hard tonight. I love it. Oh man.
It works for me. I will not give up on my Crystal Skull.
Well, your internet is censoring you for you, so it's okay.
Okay.
By the way, okay, let's talk about Henry Jones, the professor. Is that just his like Clark Kent alter ego? Because like he wears the glasses and stuff, and they seem kind of pointless, except just to like I apparently turn on freshmen. Not really sure what's going on with all that, but yeah, I noticed that like he's up there on the chalkboard, he's writing stuff, and then as soon as he wants to get serious, he does the whole like, got to take the glasses off now. Now it's real. Like, shouldn't it be when you're getting less serious?
Well,
like, I love that outfit though. I love that he's got like his I'm in college suit, and then he's got his I'm traveling on a plane suit, a different suit, of course.
Yeah.
and then he's got his I'm adventuring leather jacket and khakis, and
yeah,
he's got a look for every occasion. It's fantastic.
I always kind of took it as like when he takes his glasses off, that's more of like okay, I'm the adventure guy now. So when he's talking about these things, it's like he's talking about the adventurous part, not just reciting facts. Takes it off. Okay, well,
Dude, you might as well just hotspot your phone and get it over with, because your home internet is definitely killing us tonight.
Is it that fucking bad?
Oh yeah, whatever you just said was completely lost.
This is fucking ridiculous. You gotta be kidding me. I can't hotspot my phone. I tried it. It doesn't pull enough shit.
Good God. Anyway, yeah, exactly, Kale. Didn't know John could scat.
Yeah. John about to scat right off the podcast and reschedule.
Hey, that's fine. I could talk about Indiana Jones by myself. You know what this is going to do, though? I know exactly who's probably trolling us is Discuss Metal Joe, Joseph Wren. He's always bugging to get on the podcast, and if you can't stay online reliably, then I might have to call in a favor.
He's the one that fixed it.
Oh, well, then he's banned. Ban hammer on Joe. Joe is now to blame for your internet, so no, Joe, you're not getting on the show. I got to stop rhyming.
Yeah, he actually fixed it. So I'm jumping out. I will send him you and jump in.
Okay. So yeah, so Raiders, he's not wrong. Raiders is basically a perfect movie. Like if you look at the cast of characters, you've got Belloc, who, by the way, he was like 36 or 37 when they filmed that. So is it just me, or does it seem like people a generation ago aged a lot faster than we do nowadays? I mean, like I'm 57, and look at me. So you see what's going on there. Yeah, Spencer, you are absolutely right. John does have dial-up. In fact, he should get dial-up. It would be better than what he's got right now. It's absolutely infuriating. I don't know. If I was him, I would actually move back out of Wadsworth again, because this all started really bad. He was so happy to move into his new house. He's like, finally, that crap internet's gonna be gone. And he gets worse internet. So yeah, definitely not the right move there. That was a $200,000 mistake that he made. I look like I'm in my 30s. Sure, we'll go with that. I'll take it. Anyway, yeah, Raiders and Indiana Jones. So you've got Belloc, awesome villain, right? Like this slimy, sleazy guy you knew right off the bat that the dude was bad news, but he was always one step ahead of Indy, which made him a great foil. You had Sala, which that dude, I'm so glad he's going to be back in Dial of Destiny, because it's the one thing that's bugged me about the Indiana Jones movies is there's always been like different sidekicks through every movie. And Sala's like that through line, you know, you need that consistency, because I'm actually going to talk about Crystal Skull for a second here. One of the biggest beefs I have with that is that it's supposed to tie back into like old Indiana Jones history with getting Marion Ravenwood back in there and everything. And then they introduce, all right, well, he's back on. So let's see if he can actually stay on. Bail me out here, dude. Who's the old crazy dude in Crystal Skull that is supposedly a friend of Indiana Jones forever?
I'm busy emailing Joe. What the hell are you talking about?
I'm trying to remember the name
what?
of the crazy guy who led
Oxley.
them to Oxley. Yeah, like that was one of my issues with that movie, was that they're like, oh, he's known the Joneses forever. Like, well, then where the hell has he been? Like, I ain't heard of this guy ever before. It's like a bit of a retcon there, where like Sala's like that through line, right? Like I'm so happy to see him back in Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, well, let's see. Apparently, the reviews that have come out so far of Dial of Destiny have not been great, but I kind of take that with a grain of salt anymore. So
interesting. Okay, so this is something that I actually legit wanted to bring up. Now, obviously, we have differing opinions on Crystal Skull. We don't have to get into specifics about that. Yours are well documented, and I just have to basically make the same points and win the argument. It's like why dolphins are the smartest animal on Earth. But I can't tell if you're really focusing on your phone or if you're frozen again, but I'm just going to keep going. My question to you, as long as you can hear me and then hopefully respond, and comments, Kale, Spencer, everybody chime in. Do you think that the Indiana Jones formula is kind of like, I don't want to say antiquated, but like it just doesn't play well to modern audiences anymore? So like, I know one of the common things that John always says about Crystal Skull is that it's just like the other Indiana Jones movies. So there's no reason to rip on it because it's no more ridiculous than the ones that came before it. But we all watched that movie and we're like, this is trash. And apparently Dial of Destiny is getting, middling reviews too. So is it possible that the whole Indiana Jones thing, the over-the-top action, the ridiculousness of it, is it possible, Joe?
Yes, it is possible.
That the format of an Indiana Jones movie is just past its time right now, like it's passé.
I think the template for the Indiana Jones movie is the Steven Spielberg action film. I say that because when you think about the formula of a good Steven Spielberg movie, there's always that setup, there's the establishment, there's the lack of explanation, there's the explanation as we go through the movie, but we still stay on the main beats, right? Think of E.T., think of Indiana Jones, think of, what was that movie, Duel with the truck? Like, everything that he does, Goonies, bring it on. I know he didn't do that, but he had a hand in it. He wasn't the director, but he had a hand. There's always an aspect of the movie where you know you're going to get this big adventure type feel. So is that just so far gone that we're all forgetting what a good movie is supposed to be? Or have we just changed our expectations over time and this is the This is the old school coming back to remind you that they can still go. I don't know if it's dated. It's just not normal anymore. It's not this high standard anymore. It's like everyone stopped trying because technology and the way we make films in the last 20 years has told the business that you can do this stuff cheaper. You can do this stuff with less effort. It's the difference between practical and digital. You can do it practically, but do you need to? We're still going to make millions of dollars. It's Indiana Jones.
I think that's actually the big difference, because that's the hardest thing. That whole like jungle scene with Mutt swinging through the vines with the monkeys, like, it's so obviously fake, and the giant anthill is so obviously fake. And like I was saying about Raiders of the Lost Ark, there was a dude, it was actually Harrison Ford for a lot of the shots, getting dragged behind an actual truck. That really happened. You know, when they needed a shitload of snakes for the pit, they just got a shitload of snakes. And I wonder if the digital thing is really what's to blame here, if it's not the action that they're portraying, but actually the way in which they decided to film it. What do you think?
Just checking. Are we talking about the new movie yet, or are we still just looking back?
We're kind of looking at the new movie through the lens of what went wrong with Crystal Skull, and it sounds like critics are repeating that refrain for the new one.
It's an easy refrain, right? Because if Steven Spielberg says, I want Harrison Ford, I want Indiana Jones to be in this very tense Indiana Jones situation, Temple of Doom is an awesome situation for Indiana Jones to be in. It's not so much an adventure. It's a thing that's happening to Indiana Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how I want to answer your question.
The fakeness doesn't enter in, because I'm thinking of the minecart scene, right?
Right.
Obviously, they didn't strap him into a real minecar. That was all, fakery and compositing.
It's just supposed to be an adventure movie, right? It's supposed to be the standard of adventure movies. We're looking at old school serials and what inspired and got us here.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at the Indiana Jones formula, if it exists, I don't think it exists. I think the Indiana Jones formula is a lot of hindsight and retrospective and nostalgia. So we want it to pay off and make us feel the same way it did the first time you saw it when you were 8, 9, or 10 years old.
Yeah, I think you're tapping into something there, and that's one of the things I had the hardest time with Crystal Skull is Indiana Jones is like an ageless action hero. So trotting Harrison Ford out at how old was he when they filmed Crystal Skull? Was he, I want to say, late 60s, mid 60s, something like that?
Checking on that for you now.
I mean, the man's definitely over 70 now. So like, I kind of feel bad for this guy having to pretend like he's still this 40-something-year-old actor, you know? Like, I know he was 36 in Raiders of the Lost Ark when they filmed that. So we're what?
If that's
40 years on. So yeah, so the guy's approaching 80 at least. I mean, God knows when they filmed this thing, so but he's approaching 80. He's definitely heavily into his 70s by now. To see the guy trying to play an action hero is, whether he can pull it off or not, it's not something I want to see.
It's not something that at a glance I can believe in. I'm in the park with the less hardcore Indiana Jones fan, where I think you can hand this character off 20 years ago. After The Last Crusade, you can hand this character off, in my opinion. They
literally rode off into the sunset.
Quite literally. Either stop, do nothing ever again, wait 20, 30 years for this current generation of technology to catch up with what it takes to make a modern Indiana Jones film. But I don't think it has to be Harrison Ford. I want it to be, but do I want to watch old Indiana Jones still try to play the young Indiana Jones game?
Yeah,
unless you're going to tell me he's a
watch.
superhero, right? Like he's an invulnerable person that can never fall apart. He will always make it to the end of the adventure and find whatever he's looking for because he's Indiana Jones.
Right, yeah. Okay, Spencer chimes in, and this is the point that I was going to make as far as recasting Indiana Jones. Spencer talks about Alden Ehrenreich playing a good young Harrison. I agree. We're definitely defenders of the Solo movie on this show. But that doesn't mean that general audiences will accept it. I don't know if the poor reception to Solo was because of Alden Ehrenreich replacing Harrison Ford, or if there were other problems with it. But Disney, I don't think, is going to even take a chance at recasting anything Harrison has done at this point. I mean, can you think of anybody who could step into that role and isn't immediately going to be shat upon? It's like every time they have to find someone to play Captain Kirk in Star Trek, you know?
The closest you've gotten to Indiana Jones, and I'm trying to come up with a better example than this, but I really think this is true. Brendan Fraser in The Mummy. If that was a different script, that's Indiana Jones.
Yes. I got exactly those vibes off of that. I thought that was exactly what they were going for, was like, this is a new version of Indiana Jones.
They called it The Mummy
and everything. Yeah, and they called it The Mummy, but I mean, the dude wore khaki and he was doing all the same stuff. It was just more effects, that's all.
Right. If you had just focused on him and not made it an ensemble adventure movie, it could have been, Brendan Fraser is Indiana Jones in The Tomb of the Mummy. And we all would have believed it.
Mm-hmm.
That movie's good. The sequel's not so much, but that movie's really good. I'll still watch that one.
Yeah, that's another one where I kind of, we should do that on the show sometime. Talk about the Mummy movies, but then I'd have to watch them. That first one's awesome, and then it just falls right off. That's
Spencer's
we already did
out.
a show. We already did a show called "Franchises Worse Than You Remember," and we forgot the Mummy franchise. That definitely belongs alongside like Terminator and Aliens for like what the hell happened.
Spencer Jules, you're saying The Mummy was amazing, and he's throwing out Chris Pratt as a modern Harrison Ford. Do I want to give Chris Pratt another movie? Yeah, sure, it's fine.
Man.
It's like Corey Taylor coming to sing in your band. Do I want to listen to another Corey Taylor rock project? Right. Yes, actually I do. I'm fine with that.
But yeah, also Chris Pratt is looking good, but he's over 40, right? So how much longer before he ages out of the role? They don't exactly crank out Indiana Jones movies every other year. So unless they're planning on significantly speeding up production on these things, which I think Harrison's usually been the roadblock on this. He's always the one reading the script and going like, nope.
Well, and that's the risk too, right? Is Disney Plus is starting to bring out a lot of these old properties, and I've read that the Willow TV series that they made was such a failure that they're going to take it off of the streaming platform. Like, they're not making any money off of the streaming service, at least not as much as they thought they would with these old characters. And I'm over here in the ballpark of, sure, do more Willow stuff. Why has Warwick Davis had to wait for 30, 40 years to do that character again? Are we at the tail end of the 80s nostalgia, and that's why we're still talking about Indiana Jones? Like, are we really doing another indie movie, or is it just, yeah, I've got more to say with that character?
Yeah, I think it's last gasp on a lot of that stuff, just because the actors who played those roles have completely aged out, and in some cases, unfortunately, are no longer even with us. So you can only do so much before you're going to have to recast or move in another direction with those things. Yeah, Spencer's pointing out that Harrison's got his next gig. He's Thunderbolt Ross since William Hurt died. So,
oh man,
which is a decent recasting. I don't mind that.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and he's approximately the right age. And hey, if the dude wants to work in his 80s, go for it. I sure as hell don't. If I'm still alive when I'm 80, I better have enough money to sit around on my ass and do whatever the hell I please instead of having to go earn a paycheck. Okay, interesting. Yeah, Spencer.
Only 80s show.
Yeah, did you go illiterate? You were in
I
the middle
did for a
Joe.
split second. Only 80s show that rebooted right was Cobra Kai. I don't consider that a reboot. I think that's a legit continuation of those characters. As much as I'm nostalgic for the Karate Kid films, I think they're fine. It doesn't have to be the plot or the version of the characters or the story that necessarily I want, because it's playing with a little bit of that modern fan theory, like that Daniel was actually the jerk in the original movies. And they let that happen in this, and it's just a good continuation of those stories that you could have made the new seasons of that show. You could have made those into their own standalone films. We've all just aged up to the point where we actually have the money to buy the tickets and pay for the services. So if they don't make stuff that we want to see or have been asking for 20 years, they're not going to get any money from anybody.
So I love when fans can come and recontextualize stuff like this, because yeah, so there's that Karate Kid thing where Daniel was really the asshole. And have you heard the one about Raiders of the Lost Ark, where basically that all would have happened just fine without Indy doing anything? Like
It's
the
a
whole time, the Nazis would have found the Ark anyway. They would have opened it. They would have melted their own faces. So was anything that Indy did necessary at all?
What was the end result to him stealing the idol at the opening of the film?
Belloc got it.
So, no point?
I don't
Nothing to
think
do
so.
with the Ark, at least.
No, nothing to do with the Ark whatsoever.
I mean, it's a theoretical truth, right? If this film did not have somebody trying to beat the Nazis, that they would have inevitably killed themselves anyway. But they wouldn't have felt so good about beating Indiana Jones, right? Like, we got one over on you, Indiana Jones. I'm trying not to do Strangelove, but I really want to.
We found it anyway, and now we are going to open it and find the treasure within. Oh, this isn't good.
Okay, dude, you do a great strong bad, but your German needs work.
I'm not anywhere in that ballpark, my friend.
Wow.
What's Kel McLeish got for us?
Kale does make a decent point here, but it says no, the Nazis wouldn't have won. They only got it because Indy had the headpiece to the staff. Kind of true. He led them right to it because he had the headpiece, but the theory goes they would have just stuck it out there in the desert forever until they eventually stumbled across it anyway, headpiece or not. Because they were already digging. They were just digging in the wrong spot. So yeah, chances they might have been able to stumble across it. Just would have made a totally shitty movie. But I love this idea that, like, because if you think about it, yeah, like everything he does, like the Nazis and Belloc are one step ahead of him that entire movie. And then the way they get out of it at the end is they just don't look at the Ark. And then apparently God burns their ropes free so they don't end up stranded and dehydrated to death in the middle of the desert. So yeah, was anything that Indiana Jones did in that movie really consequential? He got a bunch of people killed.
I'm trying to think what John would say in this scenario. Like, yes, he proved that Indiana Jones was a character that could go on to make 3 films that I love and one that I don't like so much.
The dude got a monkey killed, but it was an evil monkey. So are we upset about that?
Well, he was trying to take after his good friend Charlton Heston, and make sure that the apes do not win.
Okay, so evil monkey, we don't feel bad. Got it.
Evil monkey, we do not feel bad. Damn dirty apes. Take your paws off me.
I want to get into acting just so I can act with a monkey. That would be my
I hear
pinnacle. Like,
that's
I don't care about
bad.
winning awards. I want to perform with a monkey.
Do you want to have a conversation with it? Like, is this a Nutty Professor remake where you're going to sit down and talk to it and it's going to be in a completely different language than you?
I don't care. Just as long as I don't get poop flung on me, I'm good. Yeah, this is okay. I love that Kale says the Asian dude was there to take it from Marion. Because, yeah, he was like a hardcore Nazi, but he was an Asian. Like, was he supposed to be with, like, the Japanese government, or was he just a Asian dude in Germany who happened to sign up with the Third Reich? I was never really clear on that. I'm like, he doesn't seem like the right ethnicity for this, but I'll go with it.
I mean, I don't have a drink, but hail Hydra.
I mean, they were in Mongolia anyway, so maybe he was, or Nepal. They were in Nepal.
Right.
So maybe he was Nepalian or whatever. I don't know what you call those people. Okay, so now we got John showing up in the comments because that's the best he can do. All right. They were on an island, not in the desert. Good point. They still would have starved or dehydrated if they had just stayed tied to that damn pole forever with no one coming by to get them.
Was there a lot of sand in that island?
Yes.
Does that make it a desert island?
I think so.
Is there a tale you can tell us about that, AJ? And was it a faithful trip?
I was going to say it started off as a 3-hour tour.
And then,
I think we know how the rest goes.
And then there were Nazis, and then something about a staff, and eventually there was this big gold box. And why is everybody's face melting? Roll credits. Great film,
exactly.
guys.
The most important thing that Indy had to do in that whole movie was deliver the Ark to Porkins.
Do you really want Porkins to be the one who's going to see this through to the end? Like, do we trust that Porkins has what it takes? Like, this is the Ark of the Covenant. It's going to be a throwback in a future film. And you want to give that to Porkins?
Well, he didn't have anything else to do. His Death Star days were done.
A long time ago, in fact.
Okay, so Kale is starting to poke holes in the plot here, which is part of the stuff of the stuff that I was watching for another YouTube video actually ahead of this one. So he says, "Hey, since we're on this train of thought, how did Indy get inside the sub that was already submerged?" Good question. The fan theory is that U-boats didn't really submerge that far unless they had to, and he actually lashed himself to the periscope, which remained above water. So he did not actually submerge.
So did he get pulled down with the periscope then?
You know,
Or did he just
ask him?
Did he bust out the glass after they put it up, and he just tried to crawl in through the tube?
You know, I assume it was something like Chewie commandeering the AT-ST in Return of the Jedi. Like, he just kind of like steps down like there's a ladder, but there clearly isn't. So I don't know how people get in or out of that damn thing. It's kind of the same thing. You just assume that it can happen.
Your brother's telling us to stop asking that question.
And he's also saying it all happened because Indiana Jones rules, and that's all that matters. See,
we hang out too much.
These are the deep insights that my brother brings to the show. This is why he's the star. I can't come up with hot takes like that. That's just amazing.
Like, stop asking questions about the Millennium Falcon. Like, why? Because the Millennium Falcon.
Right. Stop asking questions. All right, I guess the show's over then.
Okay. Thank you for tuning into
guys.
this impromptu episode of the Nerf Herder Council.
Right.
Welcome to WTF Wednesday.
All right, so we've kind of talked Raiders out a little bit. Let's talk about Temple of Doom, because that's one whose reputation has changed over time too. This was back in the day when like sequels weren't really like nailed down to a formula, like just do more of the same thing. That's when you got like Empire going in a different direction from A New Hope. You got Ghostbusters 2, which, while lamentable, was at least something different from the first one. Gremlins 2, the new batch. Again, hot take, I like it.
It's fine.
It's cheesy as hell, but I like it. But definitely not.
The director told me I would not sit and watch both of these movies back to back. But if you want to, feel free. I'm fine with a late night grindhouse session of watching both Gremlins.
Yeah, but if you walked into Gremlins 2 expecting more of Gremlins 1, this wasn't that. And I feel like Temple of Doom, also not Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, you get Short Round introduced. You've got Willie, who most people can't stand. Where do you come down on her? Poor phrasing there, but what do you think of her?
It's not that she's bad.
Okay, hold on a second. I got to cut you off for a second. John, if we don't ask questions, it's not a discussion and we don't have a show. Shut up or I'll block you. You were saying.
It's not that she's bad, because she has a director, right? one of the, quote, best directors of all time, unquote. So it comes down to the performance. And I don't blame her. I wouldn't have given her that job, or I would have told her to say her lines differently. It's yes, she's annoying, but so is Short Round. Like, that has to be a plot point that we're not really talking about with this film. What was the trend in the 80s? Actually, let's go back. 80s, let's go to the cartoons, right, AJ? We love cartoons from the 80s, right?
Oh, God.
Okay,
here we
so
go.
every cartoon in the 80s, right? It was really, really cool. You have characters with weapons, and these are all going to be toys someday. And then there's that one little character that just sits in the back going, snarf, snarf. And everybody says this show would be great if that guy wasn't in the movie, or that guy wasn't in the show.
There's always the perspective character that's like the kids can picture themselves in the action, yeah.
But no, anyway, my point. Was that just an 80s trend, and Spielberg took it to the extreme? Like, how are we going to have drama with Indiana Jones when all he has to do is go into the temple for reasons? He's trying to get the kids back because he's a hero. He's not just looking for treasure. He's not just maybe affecting how the Nazis eventually killed themselves anyway. We're going to make him a hero. He's got to find a way in. He's going to have this conflict, and then there's going to be a fight on a bridge. And how is Indy going to have conflict if he's just the hero because he's Indiana Jones? Nobody can really defeat him. Give him a lot of annoying characters, and they're just grinding on every nerve he has. So I wonder if it was intentional. I wonder if it was one of those equations. Like, there's not enough tension in this performance. I know. Say Indy again.
Indy! Yeah, whatever the hell. She was written to be annoying, and I think the actress did a great job pulling off exactly what they wanted that character to be.
Absolutely. And Short Round is Short Round, right? If it's not Goonies, it's Temple of Doom. Just you do you, kid. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. He had his 15 minutes of fame. It worked out for him. I thought that was fun. And the one thing I will say for Short Round is that he was necessary, because you got to have somebody fighting this 12-year-old emperor, prince, whatever the hell that, I don't know, the ruler of the palace.
Hum Num Shivai. Hum Num Shivai. Hum Num.
Yeah,
I'm
right?
sorry. I can't stop doing it when I look at this movie. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and you can't have, Harrison Ford walk up and bitch slap a kid. So you kind of needed to have.
He would do that, though. I think Indiana Jones would do that. Eventually, he would just have enough and just boom.
That should have been the trade-off. Is they should have swapped opponents. Indy should have gone after the kid, and Mola Ram should have squared off against Short Round. That would be a movie I want to see.
And then you get to go full Jedi, and you get to have the Episode 2 fight 20 years before. You've solved the problem, AJ.
Are you saying Short Round is Yoda in this example?
In the example you're providing, yes, absolutely.
Oh, God.
I don't know where the rails are. We're long gone now.
I'm not sure that's culturally appropriate, Joe.
Why? Because compared to
this sounds wrong.
Compared to the tall guy, he's tiny, so he has to do a lot of jumping.
God.
What's the problem? I blame John for not being here, honestly. It's his fault. He's not here to defend himself.
Oh, he's here. He's just getting more and more pissed off in the comments. He says we're fucks that hate Indiana Jones.
It's okay. Please weigh in.
Kale says, Kale, we'll have to get a freight scale first. There we go. That's my token fat joke for the episode. Kale says, I think Mola Ram is a better villain than Belloc, but Donovan might be my favorite villain overall. Nice. Okay. I like this comment. What do you think, Joe?
I don't really have a preference.
I like the whole religious zealot thing. It's creepy.
It's creepy in the 80s, too. Like, I don't want to just keep saying it was a movie they made in the 80s, so the tropes of the time are why they're there, right? But I like the religious zealot, always, because that's the person that's just gone. Like, they are, in fact, evil because this is what they subscribe to, and it doesn't matter how much of a face they put on or they try to persuade you one way or the other. No, that dude's just crazy. And at some point in the movie, Indiana Jones has to take him out or survive or run away. You know, whatever actually happens.
As ridiculous as the voodoo doll was, as much as that pissed me off, it was necessary and it worked for the story. I thought it was completely ridiculous, but it was all right by me. And besides, Mola Ram rips a dude's friggin' still beating heart out of his chest. This is Mortal Kombat before Mortal Kombat.
And then the chanting happens again.
Yeah.
It's
Om Shivai. Om Shivai. Shivai.
It's Temple of Doom is just a situation, right? Let's see what happens when Indiana Jones is in a situation and how does he deal with that situation. Yeah, this could have been, and I know they tried with young Indiana Jones, but that could have just been a series of films. Like if this was made today, like if Indiana Jones was made the same way they developed the Avengers first 3 phases, you'd have a major Indiana Jones story every few years and then all these little ones. Like today he's in a Temple of Doom. Today he's in a haunted house because George wanted that. And today he's going to travel, across the ocean and take down pirates because we got to fill 3 hours. All of these are ideas that don't make sense, but they don't have to when you're Indiana Jones. It's just a situation action film with a plot and a point. It's an adventure. Yeah, it's the difference between adventure and action.
Yes, exactly. The story that I'm not really that familiar with that I wish had been made into a movie because it was originally intended to was Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Doesn't that sound like a perfect concept for an Indiana Jones movie? Like Atlantis, of all the ridiculous, fantastical things, Atlantis is definitely a place that Indiana Jones would end up at.
What was the plot supposed to be? Do we know?
It was something concerning what happened to Atlantis.
So like the Holy Grail, right? The Last Crusade, the Fate of Atlantis, the film is Indiana Jones trying to figure out what happened to Atlantis, and that becomes some extremist mystery plot with a trail of clues leading out the world. Like somebody throughout time was like, hey, we can't talk about it today, but just pass this on.
Right.
People need to know. They need to know what happened. And then you find out that it's something ridiculous like Atlantis is actually in space. But that would be a cool movie because then Indy gets to go to space and you have a reason for the aliens.
Mm-hmm. You've just fixed the entire franchise, Joe.
I'm out.
You need to submit a treatment to Disney. Okay, we can get this happening. This would be great.
AJ is my
totally
representation.
No, I totally agree. Like that's the formula of every Indiana Jones movie. It's Indiana Jones and the MacGuffin of this story. That's it.
Right. That's supposed to be the point.
Like first one, it's the Ark of the Covenant. Second one, it's the Sankara Stones. Third one, it's the Holy Grail. Fourth one, it's the Crystal Skull. Fifth one, it's the Dial of Destiny. That is the formula. Indiana Jones must go get a thing. And then calamity happens all along the way, and he succeeds anyway.
At some point, it's just going to be
that hard.
It's not supposed to be hard, right? And for the most part, it's not. Like, I admit it, and I know we're not there yet, but I sat down and rewatched Crystal Skull after you guys talked about it, and I said, okay, I was a little harsh. Is it a good movie? Well, it's fun. It has the formula of Indiana Jones. It's just not as breathtaking as the previous films. It wasn't as gritty. It was a little more adventure-y, cartoony, little less, grit, real like conflict and sand and tanks and everything else that happens in the Indiana Jones films. Yeah. That's just how I feel about the movie. I don't think I'll ever enjoy it as much as JT does, but I think we're getting ready to talk about my favorite Indiana Jones film, which is The Last Crusade.
Yeah. So like Cale had said, he said, Mola Ram better than Belloc. Donovan might be the favorite villain. I think so, but I don't think it's because of the villain. I think just the whole movie in general is my favorite. So the villain is elevated because he's a part of it.
Right.
Like I'm trying to think of what specifically makes Donovan, and Kale, feel free to chime in. What makes Donovan the best villain? Like Belloc is slimy, and he really just hangs around and waits to steal shit from Indiana Jones. Like he himself is not really a smart
We'll let
villain.
the dog find it for us, and then we'll take it from him.
Exactly. He works smarter, not harder. Mola Ram is a zealot, so he's fun for a different reason. But then you've got Donovan. And Donovan, I'm trying to figure out like what his archetype is as a villain. How would you characterize him?
Isn't his archetype just power? And I don't want to just say that that's the plot of every villain in an indie movie. It's always power, but it's power transcending the physical, right? Trying to get some type of spiritual blessing or spiritual power that's going to make you greater and be the ruler of the world. That's kind of the same plot in every indie movie. It's just a different plot device to get us there. So I don't think there is a better in this scenario. I just think it's it's more interesting because of the content. Temple of Doom's very small. Raiders of the Lost Ark, it feels cramped because it's supposed to. The Last Crusade feels very large, very Steven Spielberg, very Spielberg in the 90s, right? Like huge movie. And it just depends on the situation. It's all the same plot, really, when it comes to the motivation of the bad guy.
Yeah. Like Donovan is basically Belloc 2.0, but he's got that extra wrinkle of the betrayal.
Betrayal.
I think that might be the really interesting aspect of the character. Is it's not like a person. His betrayal though isn't even personal. It's not like he's got beef with Indy, so he's a bad guy now. It's just like it's his sheer indifference. It's like the Thanos thing. Thanos didn't have a grudge with the Avengers. They were just in the way of the thing that he refused to give up on. He was a force of nature, and it was gonna happen. And that's Donovan too. Donovan's like, Indy, man, if you would just stay out of this, that'd be great, because I don't want to do anything to you, but you're in the way of the thing I'm going to do, so I'll go through you. The fact that there should be a personal vendetta because they know each other, but the lack of one actually makes him, I think, like that little bit more sociopathic.
Right. The good guy becomes a fly that just won't go away. Like, I told you could leave. Why are you still here? I said you could go. Why are you still here? I don't understand why you're still here. Fast forward 10 or 12 encounters later. I'm going to kill you now because you are still here. And it actually becomes that very tense conflict.
And
everybody's trying to get one over on Indy, though. Like, right. Indy must be, in the world of Indiana Jones, one of the most sought after minds when it comes to historical artifacts, because everybody's just trying to get one over on him. It's the Tony Stark scenario where it's not just I'm trying to beat you, it's that I'm trying to make you feel dumb.
Yeah, and he's the ultimate fly in the ointment. Like you said, like the villains are just doing their thing, and they're not going after Indy. Indy's always inserting himself into their stuff. Okay, I think what really cements Donovan as an awesome villain is not just that he's, smart enough to recognize Indy, but also he does fight smarter. Like after he, throws a bunch of idiots at the traps in the final temple, he goes, you know what, Indy could do this, but he won't. So I'll just shoot his dad. We're after immortality? Fine. Then I'll put one of his loved ones in mortal danger, and then Indy will have to go do it for me.
Is that the first time? Is that the first time it happens in an Indiana Jones film? Where he really has someone at risk? Yes, the damsel in distress. Right, but the damsel in distress, that's the same to him. Short round, whatever. We're used to that. Now it's very personal. Like, now I'm going to actually take someone from you. And your only way is to prove my theory correct. That somewhere in this hole in the ground is the cup of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it messes with Indy so bad because he wants to do it. He wants to find it.
but he doesn't want to give it to him.
Right, exactly.
Because even once he has it, he doesn't want to let it go.
Right. They force Indy to their side, basically.
Right.
Which is every other movie, it's always Indy trying to thwart the plans of the villain. In this one, he has to succeed in the plans of the villain for someone's own sake.
And then still find a way out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very nice how they wrote that whole thing of like, oh, well, now you're immortal, but you can't leave. So.
Well, you can't take your immortality with you.
Right.
You stay here, you're immortal. If you leave, you lose it. This movie, we're talking about The Last Crusade, Kingdom of the Last Crusade. Kingdom of the Last Crusade. Wow, I'm crossing lines here in my head. Wow. We're talking about The Last Crusade. It's happening, right? This film is more popular, I think, because of syndication in television. I've definitely had the most time with it because of that. I think I've watched it more on television than I have in an actual theater. But I feel like it's a movie that I feel like I know every plot point, and I don't. That's why I think it's a good adventure movie, because even if you've seen it dozens of times, you still can be surprised. There is still something in my brain that will... So there's still something that I'm surprised when the ending happens and he drops the cup. I know the cup's going down, but the fact that he just lets it go is... Like, he was trying to save the girl and not take the cup away. And then when she made her decision, he immediately 180'd. Like, nope, it's right there. I got it.
Yep.
Like, he turns into Smeagol with the ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the best Indy movie? Or is it just the original taken to the next level? I don't want to say the extreme, but the next level.
It is really tough to pick a favorite between 1 and 3. I mean, 2 is great as well. It's like the conundrum of the original Star Wars movies, where they're all great, so something's got me last place, but it doesn't mean it's bad. So I have a really hard time picking between Raiders and Last Crusade. I feel like Last Crusade is a little easier watch. I don't know why. Raiders to me just seems like there's definite chunks of the movie, whereas Last Crusade, I can't picture a moment where I would turn it off and be like, okay, that's a good stopping point. Everything just kind of like, the story kind of like propels it forward into the next scene. But it definitely, in terms of, I mean, it was trying to wrap up a trilogy, and I think it did a fantastic job at that.
Right.
So
at that point, hand off the character. Let someone else do it. Do the young Indiana Jones thing. Even if the audience wasn't ready for it then, they're ready for it now. There can be more Indiana Jones. It doesn't have to be the same character. It can be the entire area of his life. You know, I'll just say it. Bring back young Indiana Jones. Just start over. Find somebody that's good in that role and let him go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they want to just completely wallpaper over the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which, I mean, would piss off ILM to know, and they did some really great work on that show.
Absolutely, they did.
But if it's just
I don't
not
hate that show.
convenient
It's
or
just
up to
not
the standards,
good.
Yeah. If they point is, I wouldn't let that show get in the way of a new version of it if that's what they wanted to do with the character. So I think the character still got legs, but obviously we're not going to have Harrison be doing it. So
right.
So yeah, you got to do something. Otherwise, this is the end of Indiana Jones. I mean,
they've already kind of made him into the CGI puppet, right? That's a thing I've heard Disney is doing now. They're scanning all their actors, and that's why the deep fake technology now is becoming more and more prevalent. Before the audience got a hold of it and took it to extremes, but with major films now, you can have cartoon real people. So if they really wanted to, they could just keep making Indiana Jones. But is that what I want? No, I'm okay with actors moving on and handing off roles. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's supposed to be about the
same.
character, not the person.
So, all right. So Kale confirms that this is the last Indiana Jones movie, which I'm fine with too. Like as much as we're talking about the 80s nostalgia stuff, it's okay to have new stuff. It's okay to get into new stories and not just keep drumming out sequels and old characters for memberberry's sake. Which is kind of a good segue into Crystal Skull.
2008
So-
was when this came out, so he would have been 65, 66 when he filmed it. Something like that.
Okay.
Early 60s at least. I mean,
All right. The only thing I can equate it to is like Ric Flair. And it reached a point where you just didn't want to see the nature boy strutting around in his undies anymore, you know?
yeah,
Crystal Skull, I think because they aged the character up, it worked okay. We'll see how Dial of Destiny plays out.
everything that happened in Crystal Skull felt like a soft handoff of the character. Like he was the Sean Connery in the situation, but he was the most experienced adventurer.
Mhm.
So he's kind of leading the charge into we got to go find this. We're going to have to fight Nazis at some point. There's a plot here that we're going to unravel, and it's going to be Indiana Jones. And oh, you're back? I thought you were still running a toll booth. I'm being so terrible tonight. I know. I thought it was fine. At that time, I looked at it and said, everything you saw Steven Spielberg say about the character led you to believe that they were just running with blinders. Like, it's the same Indy. When I look at Harrison in the costume, he looks the same to me. He clearly is not the same. And I
Right.
think that was my issue at the time was, yeah, it's not a good movie, but it's not a bad one. I just don't like you telling me, oh, no, it's the same, right? Because you talk about Ric Flair. Ric Flair in the early 2000s, not the same Ric Flair as the 80s, but if you talk to him, it's exactly the same. It's like, well, quit lying to me. Just tell me what it is for real. In retrospect, having watched the movie again recently, giving it a serious shot, I don't think it's as much memberberries. It actually feels kind of random at times. Like Indy is randomly in these different situations that end up finding this crystal skull that nobody knew what it was. And like all good Indiana Jones relics, is just in the corner of a basement of a house half a block down the street. It's fine.
Mhm.
But I think that would have been, if you're going to do another one, at least hand it off then. Maybe what we're going to get with Dial of Destiny is a true handoff of the character, and he's going to send off properly. Maybe he was in a bit of denial at that time, or not just him, but anybody that works on that film. Is it the same? Can he still go? It feels like that, right? It feels like the Undertaker's coming back for one more match
Right,
again.
exactly. Yeah.
And you still buy tickets, right? Because it's the Undertaker. So it's Indiana Jones. We're all gonna go see it. I don't want it to be bad. I'm not expecting it to be better than any of the other films, maybe Crystal Skull. But I just want it to be, I want it to be not a Disney cash in. That's what I want. I want it to not be, hey, look what we can do now with CGI and deepfakes, and look, we're going to make the film you guys really wanted. This is what you've always wanted to see, right? I don't want it to be that. I want it to be a serious indie film. That's what I want.
And you know what? They've already burned that credibility, because that was the push behind Crystal Skull was, why is it taking so long to get a fourth Indiana Jones film? Well, we were waiting until the right story came along. And just now, after all this time, we finally hit on that script. This is the story we've been waiting for. And then we got Crystal Skull. So the fact that they're, for some reason, trotting this, I think no one would at Disney would admit this, but I think the reason they're doing Indy 5 at all is, partially cash grab, obviously, but also they don't want Indiana Jones going out on Crystal Skull as the swan song.
Yeah, it's like
same
Jurassic Park
reason-
3, right? Like, we don't want that to be the last time you see the T-Rex. We can do better.
Exactly.
We messed up. We're sorry. We're sorry.
Yeah. It's the same reason Star Trek chose to make the final season of Picard the apology tour for the last movie that they put out with the Next Generation cast. Same thing.
Or
like, when
Star
you
Trek
completely-
6.
When you complete, hey, different show. Okay, so apparently that's my Crystal Skull. I'll defend that one. Anyway,
No, I'm saying
Yeah,
that was good.
it's-
That was the
when-
apology for 5.
okay, we're on the same page then.
All
Anyway, yeah,
Like we do a show together or something.
When you completely like not stick the landing but shit the bed instead, then you feel like you've got to do a mea culpa and go out on a high note. So hopefully Dial of Destiny does that. I think the big misstep with Crystal Skull was it was an unfortunate confluence of problems. Like they went too digital, like the prequels did, which just didn't play well on screen. And you got to remember, 2008, Shia LaBeouf was coming off huge from the first Transformers movie in 2007.
Yes.
So he was hot shit at the time. So to build him up as Indy's kid it made good sense at the time, but it did not play with audiences at all. So yeah, that was just a bunch of unfortunate choices that all seemed good on paper before they had to play out. Hopefully number 5 walks it back. We'll see. We know that critics can't be trusted, so
Absolutely
I think-
not. Especially a movie
Yeah.
like this that you've been watching your entire life. I don't care what the critics say. Like, I'm going to see it. I'm going to decide
this might
for
be one of those
myself.
cases where the box office is fine, but the reviews are terrible.
Well, welcome to the internet in 2023, where everybody gets their own opinion.
I'm just afraid that the early negative press and the hangover from Crystal Skull is going to keep the stank on this movie.
See, Mark Thrasher's saying there's only one Indiana. They could do side characters. What indie side characters would you sit and watch a film for? Or a Disney 8-part series?
I don't know. They
Does
might be able
anything
come up
happen
with
to these
something.
people without Indiana Jones? Or is
Maybe
what's
it could
happening
be like
to
a-
them?
You know, it could be like a Batman Beyond kind of situation where Indiana is like still doing the archaeology and all that sort of stuff, but then when it comes time to like go do the action stuff, he's got his protege, you know? And it ain't going to be Mutt.
That was supposed to be Crystal Skull, AJ.
Well, like I said, it's not going to be Mutt. Try again.
We're sorry. What if we had a dial of destiny that have you really sat down on this show and talked about what you think that plot's going to be? Like, what's going to be the indie twist at the end of that?
I'm hoping it's time travel because I want to see my brother's head literally explode in the theater.
I'm glad we are thinking the same thing, right? Like, I don't think everything you've seen in the trailers is like a flashback. I think that that's quite literally what the dial is going to be, which is somehow going to spin this whole thing back to the Ark of the Covenant.
Something like that, or it's going to be like concurrent timelines where like Indy's jumping back and forth. So you've got de-aged Indy doing something in one time period while like senior Indy is doing something in, you know, present day according to the movie timeline. He's like hopping back and forth and stuff. It's like a good Zelda dungeon, you know?
Right. I'm okay with it. I
Good
think
work.
it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
What if it's just a typo and it's actually Indiana Jones and the Dial of Density?
Well, then
He
this
just,
is
makes
going to be
shit,
a
like,
very
really
light
heavy
film.
out of nowhere, really heavy and inconvenient, or makes him really light, like all of a sudden he can lift a car.
And that's how he got into the sub. He just sunk down.
Nice. That's where the dial comes in. We've tied it all together. I love it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Nerf Herder Council.
Right. I think that's our landing right there. I think we can hit our outro. My brother's not even chiming in the comments anymore, so he must have just given up on being online entirely at this point. He's basically got his own dial of destiny, and he's back in time when the internet didn't exist. So All right. I guess on that note, we will wrap up shop for tonight. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us in the comments and dealing with the technical issues. Joe, thank you so much for coming on and saving the damn show, because it's really hard to talk Indiana Jones without a co-host. Otherwise,
anytime, my friend. I'm just a phone call away.
We will be revisiting this once we actually have a chance to see Dial of Destiny. So that is definitely going to be a show coming up in the future. Speaking of other future shows that we have coming up, in 2 weeks, we are going to be doing a comparison of the Jurassic trilogies. It's the 30th anniversary in 4 days, actually, when the audio version of this show comes out, of the original Jurassic Park. So we are going to be comparing the Jurassic Park movies to the Jurassic World movies. So stay tuned for that. I know we got a couple people who want to chime in with thoughts on that, so that should be a fun conversation. And then at the beginning of July, because I just love, I'm a fucking glutton for punishment, I guess. We're going to be doing the Independence Days movies. Given that it's going to be around Independence Day in the U.S., we are going to take a look at the first one, and I've never seen the second, and we're going to try it. So we'll see how that goes.
Wait, you guys aren't talking about Indy on Indy Day? Really?
Well, now I got to be super ignorant. When is Indy Day?
Independence Day is the 4th of July, my friend.
Well,
I was being clever,
Joe.
and I failed miserably. I'm trying to
Joe,
take the hate
goddammit.
away from you so that John stops being mad at everyone.
We're not smart enough to pick up on your humor, Joe. Okay, can you just get drunk before you show up, and then we'll have a much easier time at this.
I'll do my best. Just make sure I'm back for the Independence Day or the ID4 conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then, they came out with the other one, 20 years after, so it was ID 420. That's a whole different show. But anyway, we are brought to you by Audible. Get your free 30-day trial and audiobook download at audibletrial.com/NHC. Like I said, you're welcome to hang on to that book for as long as you like, whether you keep the trial or not. And we also have our customizable merch at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And you can find us on all the socials. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter at NHC Podcast. Obviously, we're here on YouTube, and we broadcast to Facebook as well. You might see us popping up on Twitch from time to time. I've been lurking in other people's channels on that just to figure out how that all works. And, we'll see what happens in the future. We're going to have some WTF Fridays coming up. Summer is weird with all of our schedules and whatnot, and daylight being longer, but we'll figure it out. Anything you guys want to see, chime in, hit us up on the socials. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about. In the meantime, Joe, where can they find you online?
You can find all the podcasts we are creating at discussmetal.com, at discussmetal.com, and on Twitter at discussmetaljoe.
Perfect. And I am AJ at DrakeAdams579. And once again, we are at NHC Podcast. My brother, who is apparently back in the comments now, thanks, dude, for chiming in after the show's basically done. He is John, and he is at Dog Pound Jedi. And some combination of us will
come on!
Nice. Some combination of us will catch you next time.